Hi, are you able to see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. Before we start the concept Vcenter Server, we'll quickly discuss the what we topics we covered in the ESXi networking. So we can update our master list. We'll update our discussion topics and lab. So how about the basic networking concepts? We covered all the basic networking concepts, right? So I'm just making that completed. And within ESXi host networking, we discussed yesterday all the ESXi networking concepts as well. And IP addressing also we discussed. We discussed all the IP addressing, IP address classification, and vSwitch architecture. Okay. And come to the lab. What are all the additional labs we did within the ESXi networking? We created the vSwitch. Any additional labs we did?
Port group creation.
Yeah, port group creation,
Adding and removing uplink and port group.
port group creation, adding the uplinks. Okay. Any other labs we did? Okay. We did the assigning specific port groups to production and test VMs. And finally, we observe the remove vSwitch, port group and uplinks. Today, I thought of starting the ESXi storage, but it seems to be while discussing the ESXi storage, we also required a vCenter server for few concepts. So I'm thinking to start with vCenter server first. After the vCenter concept, in between, I will start the ESXi storage. Okay, so all these labs covered. So do we have any questions on all our ESXi networking concepts? If no questions, we can start with the vCenter server today. So today's session, we are going to discuss on vCenter Server 7.0, and we can the first session will do it for vCenter Server install and configure. Okay, and today's agenda is vCenter Server management platform. We can discuss, and also the vCenter Server overview, vCenter Server configuration maximums, and vCenter Server architecture, and also that we can observe the communication between ESXi and vCenter Server. And when we install the vCenter Server, what is the main services in vCenter Server, and also the VCSA deployment. And vCenter Server, in short form, we call it as vCenter Server, vCenter, or some may say VC also vCenter only, and some may say VCSA. VCSA means vCenter Server Appliance. So we can use any name, all equivalent to vCenter only. And finally, we'll do the vCenter Server deployment home lab. Okay. So let's start with the management platform first. So in VMware vCenter Server, it's mainly for management platform for vSphere environment. vSphere means our main products are ESXi and vCenter Server. And in our previous sessions, we discussed how to install the ESX server and how we can configure the ESXi box and how to manage the ESX server. If we want to manage a single ESX box, we have two methods. We can manage in a graphical user interface method, or we can manage in a command line interface method. For graphical user interface method, we used vSphere host to client. So using the host client, we can connect to the single ESX host. Even in our home lab, we have two ESX boxes. Even to manage two ESX boxes, we are connecting the both ESX IPs individually only. And if you want to access the both ESX via command line, the only option is we can use a either direct console user interface or you can use a remote SSH. Remote SSH means we can use the tool putty to connect the our ESX box. That is only in a single ESXi host level. Suppose in our organization we have a more than two ESX boxes. Even though we have a two ESX or more than two ESX server, in order to manage all your ESXi boxes, the best management tool is vCenter Server. Why we need to use vCenter Server is vCenter Server not only for management, it is also for easy administration and it have a almost 30 plus key features. If we use all the key features, your environment will be always stable and healthy. Even as a VMware engineer, our main responsibility is, let's say in our project, our requirement is our requirement 50 ESXi hosts and 500 virtual machines. Even to install the 50 ESX host, max we may finish the 50 ESX host installation within few weeks. We can finish in 1 week or max 2 to 3 weeks time. We can finish the 50 ESX installation. Once the all installation completed, we will do the configuration, we'll do the manage all the configuration setup information, and finally we'll configure the vCenter server. Within the vCenter server, we can add all our 50 ESXi host. Once your vCenter server 50 ESX host everything ready and our requirement is 50 virtual machines. So VM creation also very simple. We can create that all 500 virtual machines, segregate into one spreadsheet, and you can take it how many Windows VM, how many Linux VM, how many Solaris VMs. So all these VMs, in order to deploy 500 VMs also, we cannot take a months. Within a week or within two to few weeks, we can finish our work. Let's say 1 to 1.5 month or within 2 months, we implemented our complete vSphere infrastructure with 50 ESX hosts and 500 virtual machines. Once the implementation is completed, what is our regular job? We have to do the regular operations to run the infrastructure smoothly. When I mention operations means these operations include any type of scenarios like even the ESX within the 50 ESX host, any one ESX server is down. It's our responsibility. So as a VMware engineer, we should know how to manage that single ESX host. And even suppose we have 100 virtual machine, there is a chances of daily one or two VMs, there is a chance of virtual machine power down or virtual machine unexpectedly reboot or virtual machine may hang. All this troubleshooting is our daily part of our job. And not only the troubleshooting, and there will be also some other requirements we may get from our customers. Customer may ask for we plan to remove few virtual machines or we plan to do scale up our virtual machines. Let's say our existing virtual machine, they choose to 10 to 15 virtual machine. All these 10 to 15 virtual machines are running with 4 CPUs and 8 GB memory. There may be a chance to increase the CPU and memory. They may plan to increase the 4 CPUs to 6 CPU and memory to 8 GB to 12 GB. So this type of regular requests also we may receive. So these all our part of the our VMware engineer day-to-day activities. So in during these day-to-day activities, whatever the vCenter have features, all these features we will use based on the customer requests. Okay, so in this session, I will give you the complete overview of vCenter and all the rest of 30 features we'll discuss one by one in the subsequent classes. Okay, so the key point here is if you observe the diagram first, then we can come to the description. If you see the diagram here, we have a three hardware servers. So one hardware is for dedicated for ESX1 and second hardware dedicated for ESX2 and third hardware dedicated for ESX3. Each ESX host contain multiple virtual machines. So for easy understanding, ESX1 have four virtual machine, ESX2 have four virtual machine, ESX3 also have a four. So that means totally we have in this diagram, we have totally 12 virtual machines. So in order to manage this infrastructure, 3 ESX and 12 virtual machines, the best management tool is vCenter Server. There is no other best management tool, only option is vCenter Server. Why we say vCenter is the best management tool is, for example, let's connect to our lab system. If we connect our lab system, we have a two ESX servers and one Active Directory in our lab system. For example, if I select our VMware Workstation Home, in the home we have an option to create new virtual machine, open a virtual machine, and there is an option to connect to a remote server. For example, if I'm trying to manage our ESX server using Workstation also, just click on connect to remote vCenter and we can enter our ESXi host IP address here. Let's say our ESXi host IP address is 192.168.10.71 and we can enter our ESXi host username and password. So it's asking for the invalid security certificate. We can just try to always trust the certificate, connect anyway. So that means when we try to, it's asking for, do you want to remember the login information? Okay, we can say it's our test lab only. Anyhow, we can say remember. When not only from the workstation level, we can only see direct console user interface. If I want to see ESX host graphically using workstation, the only option is go to the home and use the option connect to a remote server. When I use connect to a remote server, we can expand, we can see our ESX host status. But when I select the ESXi host, the only features available here is using workstation also. When I connect to direct ESX host, there is an option is showing create a new virtual machine and restart the host, shut down the host, enter maintenance mode. But we are not finding the some additional features like ESXi networking, ESXi storage. All the additional management features are not available on a workstation layer. And similarly, if I want to connect the second ESX, same way. Again, connect to remote host, second ESX box, 192.168.10.72 and enter our ESX credentials. Accept the certificate, connect anyway. And remember the password. Let's say second ESX also added. Even the second ESX also we have the only limited features only, and we can max we can do the features only these four features. We can create a new virtual machine, we can restart the host, shut down the host, and enter maintenance mode. Even if I want to move the virtual machine from 71 to another host, there is no Vmotion option here. When I right click the virtual machine, see there is no migrate option. We can only close the VM, we can rename the VM, power options is available, snapshot option is available, and only the additional options are clone is available. But we do not have a not much key features on the workstation level. But when comes to the vCenter level, not limited to this limited features, there is a plenty of options we can do in a vCenter level. Even when we connect to our vSphere host client, in our host client we have a multiple options. Let's connect to 71. But here it's only for a single host management. Within a single host management using the vSphere host client, we can do multiple options. You can create VM, we can configure storage, we can also configure the networking. But the only limitation in this tool is we cannot manage multiple ESX hosts. If I want to access another host, the only method is again connect individually. Connect to individually to the second host. When I connect the second host, it is also same like our 71 ESX host. Okay, so the features and everything for single host is same, but we do not have a options to manage both hosts on a single console. So for this management purpose, we are using the tool name called vCenter Server. So the same point they mentioned here. vCenter is the management platform for vSphere environments. vCenter Server enables us to centrally manage multiple ESXi hosts. But this multiple means it's like a either two or more than two servers consider as a multiple ESX host and their virtual machines. Their virtual machines means every host have some virtual machines. And vCenter Server is available as an appliance only. Here appliance is nothing but a pre-configured virtual machine. Pre-configured virtual machine means before when we get the appliance from VMware website, once we download the appliance, we no need to install any OS. This appliance itself can have a operating system. Suppose our Windows 2012 2022 operating system. How we did it? We first created a virtual machine and then we mount the 2022 ISO file. Once we mount the ISO file, we install the operating system manually. But when it comes to vCenter Server, we no need to install any ISO manually. We just download the ISO file or appliance, mount to the VM, import to the ESXi host. It will install automatically. So that is nothing but it's a appliance only. So vCenter Server is an appliance only in vSphere 7 and beyond. Why they mention specifically vSphere 7 is before vSphere 7 editions like vSphere 6 or 6.5, 6.7, during the 6 editions, VMware vCenter is available in a two flavors. One flavor for Windows flavor and one flavor for a appliance flavor. But from the 7 onwards, VMware removed the Windows editions completely. So that's the reason I highlighted this point. vCenter Server is available as an appliance only. From the 7th edition onwards, 7 series onwards, there is no vCenter Server Windows flavored version. Okay, and VCSA is a pre-configured Linux-based VM. The base OS is Linux. On top of the Linux, VMware developed the vCenter Server software. So that's why they say is a pre-configured Linux-based VM that is optimized for running vCenter Server and vCenter Server components. So same like when we install the ESX Server have a some list of services like NTP service, SSH, SNMP, hostd service, VPXi service. This service will come, and also ESX server have a default components like vSphere host client, SSH, DCUI. These are all the ESX components. Similarly, when we install the vCenter server also, it comes with vCenter server as well as it includes some additional components. Okay, those components information we'll discuss today. And we can deploy vCenter Server appliance on ESXi host in our infrastructure. Even to install the vCenter Server, either you can install on any physical machine, or the best practice to install vCenter Server is you can install directly on any one of the ESX host. You can install as a virtual machine. Okay, the same point highlighted here. Okay, so we can deploy means deploy is nothing but a install. And VCSA provides advanced features such as vSphere HEA. I just give the basic overview of all these features, but in the next classes we'll discuss in detail. For each feature, we'll discuss separately. Suppose these advanced features, I given few examples. HA means high availability. The name itself says high availability, highly available. That means it's a continuous availability for virtual machines. For example, we have a vCenter server to manage this three ESXi host. All of the sudden, my ESX01 is down. ESX1 down means ESX1 can be power down, or ESX1 have some hardware issue. So when the ESX server is down, just think that all the virtual machines also down. If you think if the four virtual machines down means there will be a production impact. So to reduce your production impact, we have to use the feature called high availability. When you use the vCenter server cluster feature high availability, whenever the ESXi host is down, automatically it will migrate the virtual machine and restart it on another ESXi host. So when the virtual machine migrate and restart on another ESX means there is a impact only for the ESX box, and there is a minimal impact for the virtual machine. Within the short duration, we can able to bring up all the VMs. So that is also one of the key feature. Suppose if you do not have a virtual machine, there is no vCenter server. When the ESX down, definitely there will be impact to all virtual machines also down, because there is no redundancy. When we have a vCenter server HA feature, the benefit is even though ASX hardware having any issue, ESX is unexpectedly power down also, there is no impact to your production virtual machines. Okay, that is the key feature of VCSA. And another feature is DRS. DRS full form is Distributed Resource Scheduler. This DRS main purpose is, suppose my ESX1 or ESX2 is CPU memory is consuming over 80%. Whenever any ESX host resources are completely overloaded, during that scenario, DRS will automatically balance the load. We no need to do any manual intervention. We just enable DRS feature. This DRS feature will take care of all the ESX host load management. Whenever any one host is load is high, it will automatically migrate the VM from that host to another host. When we move one virtual machine from ESX2 to ESX1, the load will be back to normal. Okay, so in detail concept we'll discuss in future. And similarly, another feature, fault tolerance. Fault tolerance also similar to advanced feature of high availability. In our high availability, there is a minimal downtime, which is 99.99% availability. When comes to the fault tolerance, it provides zero downtime. Okay, so without any downtime, when the ESX is down, without any impact, if you are using fault tolerance, all VMs within fraction of seconds, it will migrate on another host. There will be no impact to production also. But now if you want to use a fault tolerance feature, we must and should have a enterprise plus license. Okay, and Vmotion. The name itself says Vmotion. Motion is nothing but it's kind of movement. So Vmotion, we can also say virtual machine migration. We can migrate the virtual machine from one ESX host to another ESX host. That is one of the key feature we have in a vCenter server. Vmotion means we are just moving the virtual machine from one ESX to another ESX, but there is another feature called storage Vmotion. Storage Vmotion means moving the virtual machine from one data store, one ESX data store to migrating to another ESX data store. Sorry. Like this, we have a multiple key features. Okay, now we can observe the vCenter server overview. In our vCenter server overview, the complete vCenter server package contains multiple softwares. Those softwares include VMware, Photon OS, and PostgreSQL database, and vCenter server services. So this is the key components when we install a vCenter server. So the base OS for is developed by VMware. The OS is Linux based operating system, but VMware they named it as a Photon operating system. Within this Photon operating system, we no need to use any of the external database. By default, vCenter server comes with a Postgres database. Normally, we have a multiple types of database, like Microsoft have a database software name, Microsoft SQL. Same way, if you are using Oracle, Oracle also have a Oracle database. IBM also have a DB2 database. Same way, VMware also they using for the vCenter server default embedded database. That database name is PostgreSQL. Okay, and vCenter also consists of some additional services when we install a vCenter server package. And VCSA also provides SDK access. SDK means software development kit access to the environment for solutions such as VMware vRealize Automation. This is one of the VMware key product. The product name is vRealize Automation. vRealize Automation, the name itself says automation. This feature will help you whatever we are performing the day-to-day tasks. Once your vCenter ESX host, all the virtual machines are ready, every day we have to do some day-to-day operations like creation of VM, deletion of VM, all the virtual machine power cycle, virtual machine snapshot creation, whatever the day-to-day operations we are performing in the vCenter server, all these operations, if you want to do a automation method, during that scenario, we'll use the product called vRealize Automation. So our VCSA have a facility to integrate the vCenter server with automation tool. The same option in the diagram also you can observe vCenter have some additional capabilities. One of the capabilities it will also support for a automation. Okay, if your environment is very small, we can do manually. Suppose if your environment is very large organization, you are having a multiple vCenter servers and you also have 1,000 ESXi hosts and 10,000 virtual machines. During that scenario, if you have a 10,000 virtual machine, even we need a additional manpower, and even the manpower also, it will some cases very challenging to perform all the tasks. So during that scenario, we'll use the automation tool. Automation tool name is VMware vRealize Automation, and latest version is 8.6.2. This version released on the last month only. So it's a very latest 2022 version. Previously, we have a vRealize Automation 8.6.1, 8.5, 8.3, 8.4. The previous versions are also released in the last year. Okay, and the purpose of automation is whatever we are performing in the vCenter level day-to-day task, everything we can make it as a automation task. Okay, the same point we mentioned here unlocks the power of VMware vSphere through proactive management. Okay, and also scalable and extensible management platform. Even if you want to increase your vCenter server capacity, if you want to add a additional vCenter, and if you want to add a additional ESX host to your vCenter server, every scalability options are available in a vCenter server. Not only in a vCenter level, it's also we can increase in the host level, we can also increase in the VM level. Okay, and visibility is like a vCenter server deep visibility into the every level of a virtual infrastructure. So virtual infrastructure means, see, if you notice here, it includes the hardware, VMware ESXi server, and also the virtual machines. All the components we can do the centrally managed from the vCenter server. And a single vCenter server running version 7.0 can manage up to the 2500 ESXi hosts. So we know how to verify these configuration maximums. Just in the VMware website, when you see the configuration maximums, you will find all the information. Like suppose if I open a VMware website, or else just in the Google, you can type VMware configuration maximums. In our first URL, VMware configuration URL, just go to the configuration maximum. We have to choose vSphere. Under vSphere, our current version we are discussing is vSphere 7.0. So here you can select vSphere. Under vSphere 7.0, you can choose the relevant options. Suppose today we are discussing the vCenter server, so select vCenter server. And also I want to check the ESXi host maximum, so select ESXi host and click on view limits. When we click on view limits, in the right side you will get all the information. So ESXi host maximum, compute maximum, memory maximum, storage maximum, and networking maximum. Networking maximum we discussed in our previous session. So today's session we are discussing the host maximum. So, okay, in this host maximum, we just want to verify the vCenter level how many maximum. If I expand here, here we can see the host maximum how many host we can create per vCenter server. Under compute, virtual machines per cluster 8000, and same way we can see the vCenter maximum. Seems it's not loaded. Okay, it's in the second page. Second page. See, in the second page, you can see host per vCenter server. You will find the maximum host 2500. Within one vCenter server, the vCenter server scalability is until it will support the maximum configuration limit is 2500 hosts we can manage within one vCenter server. That is the capacity for vCenter server. And also power on virtual machines per vCenter server. The power on virtual machine count also 40,000. So the same information I mentioned here. So a single vCenter server running version 7.0 can manage 2500 and ESXi hosts and 45,000 virtual machines. So that means even most of the organization max they maintain a less than 2000 only. If your organization is more than 2500 ESX hosts, the only solution is we need to maintain a multiple vCenter servers. Okay. So this is the vCenter server scalability options. Some key points I just segregated here. Some additional information we can find from the configuration maximum guide. Okay, so the main key items are host per vCenter server 2500 and power on virtual machines in vCenter server instance. vC- vCenter server instance means one vCenter only. 40,000 VMs it will support. So sorry, there is a typo. It's a 40,000. Okay. And registered virtual machines are it supported some additional 45,000. Registered is nothing but it's include the both power on and power off VMs. Okay, but the power on VMs supported is 40,000. Even though if you have 40,000 power on VMs, there is a power off VMs. Even though if you have power off VMs, you can maintain until 45,000. Okay, and the linked vCenter server. Suppose our infrastructure size is very big. If you want to maintain all your remote sites, the linked vCenters we can maintain maximum up to 15 vCenters. Suppose some of the companies have multiple branches. Okay, during that scenario, each branch they maintain one vCenter server, and all these remote branch vCenter servers, if you want to link into a single vCenter, we can link the multiple vCenters until maximum 15 vCenters only. We can make it a linked vCenters. Okay, and host per cluster. Cluster is one of the important concept in vCenter server. In our lab, I will show you how to create a cluster. But remember that cluster means grouping of multiple ESXi host. If you want to group a few ESXi hosts and make it a cluster, that cluster within that cluster, the host we can create maximum 96 hosts we can create. Okay, and also I put some additional comment here. The comment is the new limit of 96 host is applicable from 7.0 update 1 onwards. So only the recently only they increased the count, but valid only for non vSAN clusters. vSAN means virtual storage area network clusters. Okay, and the 7.0 7.0 GA means general availability. So general availability limit is 64 nodes. That means before update 1, 7.0 supported maximum hosts per cluster is 64, but from U.1 onwards, they increase the host count. Okay, the host count is 96 hosts. And the VMs per cluster, within a cluster, how many VMs we can create? We can create the maximum 8,000 VMs. And virtual machines per host. This point we discussed during the ESX installation class. So per host, how many VM support is 1024 virtual machines. Okay. So these are all the some key points in our vCenter server configuration maximums. Okay. Next, we're going to observe the vCenter server architecture. So if you see the vCenter server architecture, we observe that vCenter server is supported by the vSphere client. In our previous single host level, we say that vSphere host client, but in the vCenter server, the console is looks like a host client, but the name is vSphere client. It's a HTML5 client. Okay, so we have a vSphere client and vCenter server database. vCenter server database also part of the vCenter server. vCenter server database name is PostgreSQL. Okay, and managed host. So vCenter main purpose is managing the multiple hosts. Even in this diagram, if you notice, we have two ESX hosts and each host have a multiple virtual machines, and vCenter also running on a one of the VSX host virtual machine. And vCenter server, what is the main key components? Key components are operating system is Proton operating system and the database is PostgreSQL and vCenter server appliance. So based on the Photon OS, on top of the OS, VMware developed the vCenter Server Appliance application. So they make complete into a one package. Okay. So this is the architecture for vCenter Server. And ESXi host hosting the vCenter Server Appliance instance. So we no need to install vCenter on a separately on a physical server. We can directly run on any one of the ESX host virtual machine. Okay. And vSphere Client. Vsphere Client is like its name itself says Vsphere Client. Same like our previous ESX server installation time. After install the ESX server, we managed using Vsphere host client for web access purpose. Same way, to connect our vCenter server appliances, we need to use the tool name called Vsphere Client. So using the Vsphere Client, it will allows you to access vCenter server as well as it will allows you to access single ESXi host also. Okay, both scenarios available using the Vsphere Client. So this is a complete overview of architecture, how the vCenter is look like, how we can manage the host, what is the tool to connect vCenter server command line method, a graphical user method. Graphical user interface is vSphere client, and even vSphere vCenter server also have a command line method. Command line method also we can use either VMware Power CLI. Power CLI means Power CLI command line interface method, or you can connect using PuTTY. You can connect to the vCenter server direct SSH, same like ESX host SSH. Okay, so almost same like ESX, but vCenter have a some management capabilities. Okay, so now we'll discuss the how the communication between our ESX and vCenter server, how it will communicate. So this diagram will explain about ESXi and vCenter server communication. So if we see the diagram first, we already know about VMware host to client. We discussed yesterday on how to configure networking. This is the host to client diagram, sample diagram. On the right side, vSphere client, but vSphere client we haven't installed yet. When you install the vCenter server, vSphere client also one of the component in vCenter server. It will comes with the vCenter server itself. So, but the client purpose is vSphere client purpose is it will allows you to access the vCenter server. And within the vCenter server, default vCenter service name, the service name called VPXD. D excuse me, D means daemon, so it's a vCenter server service name. And vCenter server will communicate to our ESXi host. Our ESXi host have default two agent service it's running. One of the agent is host D, that means host agent service, and VPXA means vCenter server agent. This VPXA name we observed from the host client level also. Suppose if I quickly connect to our lab system, go to our vCenter ESXi host using host client, where we can see the services, select the manage, and right side go to the services. You can see our VPXA service here. See, VPXA means vCenter server agent. Default it is running state. Similarly, we also have another service that is hostd, but hostd service we cannot find in the graphical view. If you want to see from the command line view, the command is just connect to the ESXi host and log into the ESX server. So when we connect to the ESX server, we can verify the hostd is running or not. So command to verify the hostd is just type the command /etc/init.d /hostd space status. So it will show you the hostd status, and all our ESX hostd agent service running under the etc. etc means at config. Under this partition only we can find this service. Okay, when you type the status command, press enter, you will find that hostd service is running. Okay, so the same information I mentioned here. ESXi host have a two main services. Hostd means hostd agent service, VPX means VPXA, vCenter server agent service. But if you want to connect from vSphere host client to ESX host, we always using the agent services hostd. Using hostd only we are connecting to host client. So, and when we do not have unavailable in the lockdown mode only, it will allows you to manage. If you enable the lockdown mode, we this host won't allow you to connect via host client. Okay, so default lockdown mode should be disabled. And vCenter server also, if you want to connect from vCenter to our all ESX hosts, the recommended service is VPXA. So VPXA agent service always should running state. If the VPXA service in the stop state, we cannot connect our host from the vCenter level. So vCenter is unable to access the host. Host status may shows as a not responding or not available in the network. So remember that always if you want to manage our ESX host from vCenter server, this VPXA service should be up and running. If the VPXA service is not running, how we can troubleshoot? You can just log into the ESX vSphere host client and go to the manage services tab, select VPXA and you can do restart. Okay, this is the way we can troubleshoot. Or else if you want to restart from the command line method is instead of hostd, you can type the command vpxa, vpxa status. Even vpxa is showing as running. If you want to restart, you can also restart from the command line. Command is restart. When you type restart command, it will stop and start the vpxa service. See, vpxa is stopped and vpxa is started. Okay, so you can restart from the command line method or you can restart from the graphical method. Any method you can use. But in which scenario we need to restart is whenever our ESXi host is not responding from the vCenter level. Remember that VPXA service should be start. Okay, so the same points we mentioned here. vSphere client communicates directly with the vCenter server. vSphere client directly communicate to vCenter server. To communicate directly within the ESXi host, you use vSphere host client. Okay, for one host, you can use host client. Multiple hosts, you can use vSphere client. Okay, and the communication process mainly the VPXA agent is the main communication. Okay, so now we are going to verify the vCenter server services. So vCenter, when we install the vCenter server, it will get so many services. Within the all services include these 8 services are one of the key important services. Same like our vCenter ESXi host. When we install the ESX server, there will be so many services. Even our Windows system also, when you install the Windows operating system, go to the services.msc. Sorry, there is a typo. Services.msc. This is our Windows operating system services. There is a plenty of services, and even if you observe here startup type, only few services are in a started and running state, and few services are not running or manual disabled state. Same like Windows machine and ESX machine, even the vCenter server also. When you install the vCenter server, it will comes with some list of services. Among all the services, I given the main 8 important services information. So within the vCenter server services include one main service name is vCenter server. Our service name itself vCenter server. Okay, and another key service name is VMware vSphere client. The vSphere client actually the backend working mechanism is HTML5 client. HTML5 means Hypertext Markup Language 5. This is a HTML5 we are using for this product. So HTML5 client. Okay, and we also have another service name called VMware vCenter Server Single Sign-On. Single sign-on means at a time, if you observe the vCenter server, there will be a multiple components like vCenter one component, vSphere client one component, and there will be an additional component. In order to access all the components, we no need to provide a individual credential for each component. There is a one of the functionality in vCenter that is called single sign-on. So if you have single sign-on within one login ID, we can directly connect to all our vCenter server components. And there is one service for license. So obviously there will be a multiple licensing mechanisms in vCenter like standard, enterprise plus, based on our customer requirement, whatever the license they purchase. If they purchase standard license, you can enter the standard license. If they purchase enterprise plus, you can enter your enterprise plus license in the vCenter server level. And the vCenter lookup service. It is also same like during a networking session, we discussed about NS lookup. So NS lookup means naming server lookup. So, but here it's not naming server lookup. It's a vCenter lookup service. It will always look for the vCenter server service status. And we also have another service called VMware Certificate Authority. So Certificate Authority in short form, we call it as VMware CA. CA means Certificate Authority, and Certificate Authority means for VMware vCenter server, we no need to maintain a external certificates, third-party signing, digital signing certificates. vCenter server itself, we have a default certificate authorities. So most of the time we'll use the default vCenter server certificates. Some companies, for security reasons, they may maintain instead of vCenter server certificate authority, they will use the external certificates. These all external certificate mainly for the security purposes. And another key service is content library. If you read the name one more time, the name itself says content. So content library, normally content means whatever we require the regular files for the vCenter server, like most of the time we require a ISO files. ISO file means suppose in our organization we are using a multiple flavors of operating systems like Windows operating system, Linux operating system, Solaris operating system. But within this three flavor of operating system, there will be a multiple flavors. Like Windows operating system, we have Windows Server 2016, 2019, 2022. But we already discussed the latest version 2022, but some companies still they are using a 2016 version, some companies using 2019, some companies are moving to the 2022 version. Suppose if your company already running with the mixed flavor of OSs, we have to download three ISO files. One is for Windows 2016, one ISO for 2019, one ISO for 2022. Similarly, even in the Linux operating system also we have a multiple flavors, like Red Hat Enterprise Linux 8 series also, we have a 8.3, 8.4, 8.5. Based on our requirement, we also have Red Hat Enterprise Linux demo version 9 also. Based on our requirement, all the relevant ISO files we have to download, and also similarly applicable for Solaris also. Solaris also there will be a multiple flavor, Solaris 14, like that. All this group of ISO files, we can keep it under the content library. When we keep all the ISO content in the library, this library is like a always useful whenever any of the centralized remote location or within our on-premises location, anyone want to trying to access the specific ISO file, all ISO files we can centrally grab from the content library. Okay. Same like library normally will get all the books, but here content library will get the all type of ISOs. But initial stage, we have to download all flavor of ISOs and upload it to content library. Later, we can utilize this content library for whenever required. You can just grab the ISO file from the content library. Okay. And eighth service is VMware vSphere ESXi dump collector. This vSphere ESXi dump collector means dump collector is nothing but a whenever our ESX server is down, it's automatically creating one memory dump. That memory dump will stored on a ESXi host data store. During the troubleshooting scenario, our VMware support team will request to provide that ESXi host dump. So this if this service is running, it will help you to generate the ESXi dump. Okay. And a dump is also same like our Windows system concept. Normally, if you notice in our Windows operating system, sometimes we may face the issue called Windows operating system blue screen of death. Blue screen of death means it will shows with a blue screen and it will suddenly hang the system. In short form, we say BSOD or blue screen of death. When the Windows system is affected with the blue screen of death, it will create a memory dump file. So if you want to see the memory dump file for Windows system, just log into the Windows operating system, go to the start run. You can type the system properties sysdm.cpl. When you type sysdm.cpl, go to the advanced option. Under the advanced option, there is a setting for startup and recovery. Under startup and recovery, click on settings. You will find the option for dump file. So by default, the path is C drive Windows memory dump. But when this file will create, it will create only in case of system failure only it will create. But this configuration, we haven't do anything. When we install the Windows operating system, either a client operating system or server operating system, this memory dump by default, this feature is enabled state. Here it is showing percentile system root. Percentile system root means it's a C drive Windows. Just copy this path, copy in the Windows run command. When you type the percentile system root, click on OK. It will redirect it to the default path is C drive Windows. Okay. So always the memory dump file extension is .dmp. So dump file will create in a C drive Windows folder. Okay, this is also one of the interview question. They may ask when the Windows server is affected with a blue screen of death, where we can find the memory dump file. We can find the memory dump file in C drive Windows folder. Okay, so same way our ESXi host also, whenever the ESX host is failed, instead of blue screen of death, our ESXi host will shows the error as a purple screen of death. Even if you type in the Google ESXi purple screen of death or ESXi PSOD. Okay, so when you type PSOD, go to the images, you will find the how the purple screen error. So this is how ESX host error. When you see ESX is comes with purple screen means definitely there will be a some hardware issue error. Okay, and during that scenario you will find the official articles from VMware article. See, you can find a kb.vmware.com. Kb means knowledge base VMware article. So in the knowledge base article they will provide you the troubleshooting steps. If you are sure, you can do the troubleshooting or else raise the case to the VMware support. So VMware support will help you to troubleshoot the ESX purple screen of death issues. Okay, so during this purple screen scenario only we'll export the log file. In order to generate the log file, we need the service name called VMware vSphere ESXi dump collector service. This service should be up and running state. Then only it allows you to generate the memory dump file. ESXi memory dump file. Memory dump file, or we can say ESXi core dump file. Uh, sometimes we can also say it as a VM kernel dump. All dumps are same. Okay. So when we deploy vCenter Server appliance, all these services are included. Okay, not only it's not limited to these 8 services. There will be a plenty of services within the all vCenter services. These 8 services are the main important services. Okay, so now we're going to discuss the how we can deploy the vCenter Server. So we sent a server deployment in our home lab. Normally, not only in our home lab, even in the production environment, if you're planning to install the vCenter server, the vCenter server installation is mainly in the 2 stages. So stage one, it will deploy a OVF. OVF means Open Virtual Format. Okay, it will deploy the OVF, and second stage, it will configure the NTP, SSH, and SSO. It's the same like our ESX box. Even during our ESX server, what we did during the pre-installation steps, we verify the ESX hardware status, whether this hardware is compatible for 7 or not. Once the compatibility checks are done, we download the VMware ESX ISO file, and we mounted the ISO and started the ESX installation process. Once the ESX host is up, what we did the ESX post installation process. As part of the post installation process, we did the NTP enabled, and we enabled the SSH, we enabled the SNMP, some configuration steps we did for the ESX. Similarly, our vCenter server also same. What is a vCenter pre-installation steps means, we need to here no need to verify the hardware compatibility because vCenter server is a virtual appliance only. This virtual appliance, same like virtual machine, we can deploy on a directly on a ESX box. So when you deploy on ESX box, what we have to do is just download the vCenter server appliance and import it to the ESX box. When we import ESX box, it will do the automatic installation process. We no need to do anything because open virtual format means it's already comes with a pre-configured operating system. But instead of operating system, we call it as a pre-configured virtual appliance. So this pre-configured virtual appliance, once it comes up, we need to configure the IP settings, and after entering the all IP settings, we need to configure the NTP. NTP means network time protocol, secure shell, SSO means single sign-on. So this is the 3 examples I given. Similarly, we have to do some additional configurations for vCenter server. And vCenter server appliance include PSC also. PSC means platform service controller. That is also one of the component in vCenter server. Is a 2-stage process. So we'll observe this 2-stage process today. Even when we launch the vCenter server appliance installer, it is looks like this. You can use the installer method. Install option is for install, and the second tab upgrade. Upgrade means the name itself says upgrade. Upgrade means, suppose we are using a vCenter server 6.7. I plan to upgrade from vCenter 6.7 to 6.7.0. When you plan to upgrade to 7.0, we need to choose the option for upgrade. And another option is migrate. Migrate means there is an option says W. W means it's a Windows. If you have a Windows flavored vCenter server, you want to completely migrate to virtual format, virtual appliance format, we need to use migrate. Why they given migrate option is from the vCenter server 7th version onwards, VMware stopped releasing the Windows flavored vCenter servers. They releasing only vCenter server appliance only. In short form, we call it as VCSA, only appliance only. So if any of your customers still using Windows flavor, we need to use the migrate option to convert them to from Windows flavor to appliance flavor. Okay, during that scenario, we'll use migrate option. And the last option is restore. Restore means if you have any backup of your vCenter server, you want to restore it to some other location, you can use the based on the existing backup, you can restore the vCenter server. Okay, so for a fresh installation, the relevant option is only the install option. When we select install option in the second wizard, you can see that the stage 1 activated, it will deploy the appliance automatically. Once it's deploy the appliance, the second option you can see stage 2, it is a setup appliance configuration. Even if you see this gear icon means it's a configuration icon. Okay, so we are going to observe the vCenter server appliance deployment. So until now, we discussed about the vCenter server management platform. We discussed how it is important, and also we discussed the vCenter server overview. Not only limited to the ESX and virtual machine management, vCenter also supported to do the some automation task with the help of vRealize automation. And we also observe the capacity of vCenter. vCenter will support maximum 2500 ESX and 45,000 virtual machines. Okay, some additional configuration maximums we observed, and vCenter 7 architecture, and also the communication. So communication, remember main service name is VPXA, vCenter Server Agent Service, and some key vCenter Server services, and now deployment stage. Okay, so before start the deployment, we need to download the appliance file. So how to download appliances? Just to VMware website only. You can type in the Google vCenter 7 download. When you type vCenter 7 download in the Google, you will find the first link. Always use only the official articles. Don't go for the third party download links. So use VMware website to download. If you see the current version, there is a update 3 also available. When we see 7.0 drop down menu, you can find until the 5, but I think most of the companies already moved to 6 series. Still few companies in the 6 series, few companies only migrate to 7 series. Okay, so if you want to practice in your home PC, you can practice both 6.7 and 7. Once you learn the 7 deployment procedure, same procedure applicable for 6 series also. Okay, and we'll observe the licensing mechanism for vSphere 7. Same, we have same methods: essential, essential plus, standard, enterprise, enterprise plus. Better you can download the enterprise edition because you will get the 60 days evaluation period, and you can plan to test all the enterprise plus features. Okay, you can 7.03 go to downloads and you can download here. And we have a two types of format: zip format and ISO format. Normally zip format for a upgrade procedures we can use, and ISO is for a fresh installation process. Okay, so if you want to download the vCenter server appliance, just from this website you can just click on download, you can download. I already downloaded and copied to my local system. Let me see, C drive softwares. Okay, so here I copied into the yeah, this one. vCenter Server VCSA all 7.0. It's update 3 only, 7.0.3. So latest version we downloaded. And build number, we can see the build number. Build number is ends with 8458. So 8458. Let's see this build number. We can see here, if when you click on read more, you will find the build number. So its build number is 4570, and it's released on last month only. So that means it's the latest version. My local system version is, it's a one version world. I downloaded on 27 8458. It's a 19 series, and our local system file is 18 series, so it's fine. Even if I try to download now, it may take some time because it's a 9 GB file. So we'll proceed with the existing version 7.0 only, this one also. Okay, so I will show you the how to install the vCenter server in the our workstation layer. So just right click the vCenter server ISO, there is an option for mount. So select mount, click on open. When you select the mount, if you see in your system PC, the ISO file is mounted as a one CD drive. Okay, so just open this drive. You can find the ISO file list of folders. Here we have multiple methods to install. First method is VCSA UI install. UI install means it's a user interface installer. It's a graphical installer method. If you want to install in this method, just double click here, and there is also different flavors. If you want to install using Linux, you can choose this folder. For Macintosh operating system, you can choose this option. For Windows, you can choose Windows folder. Suppose I want to test on a Windows system. Just select Windows 32. Within all these files and folders, there is a icon for installer icon. So just look for the installer icon and double click. When you double click the installer icon, so you will find the vCenter 7.0 installer. So here only you'll find the options. See, install option, upgrade option, migrate option, and restore option. But restore is like a restore from previous vCenter backup. If you have previous backup, then only we can choose this option to restore. If you have Windows flavor vCenter, while migrating, we can use this option. And if you have already six series of vCenter, if you want to upgrade it to 7 series, you can use the upgrade option. So, but in our scenario, the relevant option is install option. Okay, so we can use, this is the one method to install. Let me close this option. We'll observe the another method. See, another method is CLI installer. There is a method to install command line also. Even within the command line also, you can use Windows, you can use Macintosh, and also Linux. They are giving some additional templates also. Any method, we can install the vCenter server. And another method is, there is a folder called VCSA. VCSA means, even if I select here, you will find this tool name as a folders OVF tool. VCSA means vCenter Server Appliance. So we are trying to install a vCenter Server Appliance. So just select vCenter Server Appliance. There is a pre-configured appliance, VMware vCenter Server Appliance 7.0.3, and even the type you can find here. OVF means Open Virtualization Format Distribution Package. So even the size of this file is 7 GB size. If you just go to the properties, you'll find the size of the file is 7.35 GB. Okay, so now I'm going to use the OVF file to install. This is also one method to install. So you can test any method. You can test either user in UI method, command line method, or appliance method. Any method we can use. So now I'm trying to use a appliance method. So if I want to use the appliance method, the procedure is open your VMware workstation. Okay, under VMware Workstation, when we select here and go to the home, there is an option for open a virtual machine. When we click here, open virtual machine, not only this one, we can also use a OVF files to import. Okay, open virtual machine format. Because we already downloaded the file to our local system, I'm trying to install a vCenter server. So just click on here and go to our software ISO folder, and within that folder select all files, and our main file name is but we already mounted to C drive, right? Mounted in the system. So go to the mount drive, go to the VCSA, and select our appliance file. Just select that file, click on open. When you click on open, it will showing that the wizard name is import virtual machine. Okay, it's already trying to import the machine. This is the complete VMware end user license agreement. Okay, if you want to read all the license agreement words, you can just read, or else just scroll down all the license agreement information. Accept the license agreement, click on next. Okay, so now it is asking for name for the virtual machine name. Same like how we creating the VM, we need to enter the name, right? So we need to choose the virtual machine name. So let me choose the virtual machine name as VCSA. VCSA means in short form for vCenter Server Appliance. Okay, and it is storing the default path is C drive. Okay, let's store in the default path. If you want to change the path, click on browse and change. Okay, so now click on next. Here, deployment options. See, if you want to deploy a vCenter server, there is a multiple options are available. These options are will observe one by one. The first option is tiny vCenter server with embedded PSC. Tiny means it's a very small size, very small, not a small, very small size. Small means small vCenter server with embedded PSC. PSC means platform service controller. And medium vCenter server, large vCenter server. When I select the tiny vCenter server, if you notice in the below option description, this will deploy a tiny VM configured with 2 CPU, 10 GB of memory, and minimum space required is 579 disk space is needed to install the vCenter server. For example, if I select the small vCenter means it's a bit larger than tiny. So the configuration will increase 4 CPU, 16 GB memory, and 694 GB of disk space. Okay, but the purpose of choosing the small vCenter server is it's explained here. When we use the small deployment, it supports up to 100 hosts, 1000 virtual machines. Okay, suppose if I select a medium vCenter means 8 virtual CPU, 24 GB of memory, 908 GB of disk space, and it supports up to 400 hosts, 4000 virtual machines. And again, the large virtual center, it's almost like a t-shirt sizes. Even we have a t-shirts for kids, tiny size, small, medium, large, X large, tiny vCenter with embedded large storage, even the small, medium, same like a t-shirt sizes. Okay, so depends on our customer requirement, we can choose the relevant size of deployment and we can proceed. But this is our home lab. I'm just selecting the tiny vCenter. Okay, very small size vCenter server. Even the small size vCenter server, how many hosts I can manage maximum? It supports up to 10 hosts. Okay, so anyhow we have only 2 hosts, so this tiny vCenter is enough. Because if I select the any large or X large one, we don't have enough space and enough memory in my local system. See, it's asking for 24 CPUs, 48 GB of RAM, and close to disk space is close to 4 TB of disk space. Okay, so I do not have this much disk space in my lab system, so better will go with a tiny. But installation process is same for any of the size. Okay, so let's select the tiny vCenter server. Now click on next. When we click on next, it will prompt you for enter our host IP address family, all the information we need to enter. Okay, so this information, if you are not sure how to enter and all, it's given a information tab also. Suppose if I select a first information, it is saying that we need to enter the IP address family. Is it IPv4 we are going to enter or IPv6? So we are planning to choose IP address family is only IPv4. IPv4 means we are already familiar, IP version 4. And host network mode. Host network mode also, what is the network mode? You can just click on information. You can see network mode, that is static, DHCP or AutoConf. So we also know what is static, what is DHCP. So DHCP means dynamic, or static means manual assigned IP. So we are assigning a manual assigned IP static. And host IP address. IP address also we need to enter the IP address. Okay, if you want to enter the IP address, we can choose, already we selected as IPv4. So before assigning the IP, let me ping any of the available free IP address. So let's say ping hyphen 192.168.10 dot. Yesterday we used the 76, 77 also. I'm just checking the 78. See, 78 is not reachable state. So not reachable means this IP is currently available. It's a free IP. So I'm using the same IP address for vCenter server 192.168.10. 168.10.78. Okay, you can choose whatever IP available, the same IP you can enter here, and it's asking for host network prefix. So prefix means it's a kind of subnet mask. So subnet mask, you can enter the subnet mask, or you can say slash 24 notation also. Slash 24 means it's like a 255. We have a three octets. Three octets means 8 plus 8 plus 8. So 24. So if you put slash 24 also fine, or you can enter the, here they given the format is how they given the format. Prefix length, yeah, they say only the length. So length only we need to enter either 0 to 32 for IP version 4, 0 to 128 for IP version 6. So our length is slash 24. And gateway. So gateway also we have to enter our gateway. For this IP address, gateway is 192.168.10.1. This is our gateway. Okay. And also the DNS server. DNS server should be our Active Directory server, 192.168.10. And the DNS IP address is 70. Okay. And host identity. So what is the host identity? It's like a IP address or fully qualified domain name we have to use. So our fully qualified domain name we can use as a VCSA, vCenter Server Appliance dot demo.com. Okay, this is the name we are going to create. Okay, and it says that the virtual machine will be powered on after deployment. So do you have any questions on this? Can I proceed next? So I just verified the network configuration information based on the information I entered. Okay, it's here. Just even if you have doubt while performing in your home lab system, just click the I information button. Similarly, you can enter here. Okay, but subnet mask instead of 255.255.255.0, I just enter the octant format because they given in the same format. Okay, either we can enter 24 or slash 24. Anything is okay. We'll see if it is giving error message means we'll put the slash 24. Okay, so now click on import. So now importing the vCenter Server appliance to VMware Workstation. So this is our home system, home lab system. So I'm creating directly on a workstation level, but in the real-time scenario, recommendation is we need to import the vCenter server to directly ESX host virtual machine. Okay. So during that scenario, suppose if I connect our single host, root, password. Here we'll see the import option is available or not. Right click the ESX host. Yeah, when I right click the ESX host, here it is showing only create, shutdown, reboot services also, only the shell, maintenance mode, lockdown, permissions. There is no import option. Okay, that import option usually it's available in a using this method like install method. So for example, if I log in, when we use the UI installer method, here it will choose automatically. When I trying to install the vCenter server using this method, install method, during this installation stage, it will prompt you to enter our ESX details directly here. See, it's asking here. vCenter server deployment target. Our target should be ESXi host. So this method also we can install, but our lab ESXi host is running with low size memory. If I select the host one, how much memory we given? 4 GB memory only. So that's why I'm just installing directly on the workstation. But remember that real-time scenario, vCenter server should import directly on a vCenter level. This is the option. Okay, I repeat again. Let me close this widget. Go to our mount disk. Within our mount disk, see this is the mount disk option. So this is the mount CD, ISO CD. Just open the mount disk one. We have two methods. You graphical user interface interface method, command line interface method, and other method is appliance import method. Today's session we are using a OVF file import method. Okay. Suppose if you have enough memory on your ESX host, you can use the graphical user interface method, select Windows 32, click on installer. When you click on installer, choose the option is install. See, it's showing the two-stage installation. Stage one is deploy vCenter. Stage two is setup vCenter configuration. Okay. When I click next, end user license agreement, same like OVF file. We need to read all the license agreement. Just click accept, and vCenter server deployment target. Always deployment target will be ESX host only. So when you enter our ESXi host 192.168.10.72 or 71, let's say I choose the second host, and you can enter the root credentials and password. Okay. When I enter this root credentials and all, click next. So that means our vCenter server trying to install directly on our second ESX host. So click on S. This is also another method of installation. And here we need to enter the vCenter server name. We already given the one name called VCSA. So let's try to give the name as a VCSA2. We are giving a second vCenter, and enter the password. Okay, once we enter the password, and also remember vCenter server default admin also root only. Okay, now click on next. During the deployment time, same like our OVF file, it is showing a multiple deployment sizes: tiny, small, medium, large, X large. So suppose if you want to observe the sizes and all, see here they explained clearly. If the deployment size is tiny, you will get the CPUs 2, and small you will get the CPU 4. Requirement is 4 CPU, 19 GB of memory, and approximately 700 GB of storage, and it supports up to 100 hosts, 10,000 virtual machines. Okay. If I go for a X large is supported up to 2000 ESX hosts and 35,000 virtual machine. Even if you want to reach the maximum limit, you can increase your CPU and memory, and you can deploy the host until 2500 and 45,000 virtual machines. But the only condition is you can increase your limits. Okay, so this is a way also we can install. So let's try this one also. It's showing us select deployment size. So we have to select the size as a tiny. See what is the error message we are getting? Not enough memory on the host. So we need to increase the ESXi host memory in order to support the vCenter server installation. Minimum we need a more than 12 GB of memory in our ESX box. Okay, so this one also we can try. Almost both methods are same. Okay, so I'm just canceling this method. If you want to proceed on this method, only solution is we need to increase our ESXi host memory to minimum 16 GB, and 12 GB we can assign to the vCenter server. Okay, I'm just canceling this option, and we'll monitor how about the status. Just go to the workstation here. I think some screen is going on already. Yeah, vCenter installation is already completed. Okay, why I install on the workstation directly is because our local system have a enough memory. DX diag. See, our local system have a 64 GB of memory. Okay, that's why I created on a direct local system. But this is only optional only. But remember, production environment always deploy the vCenter server directly on a ESX box. Okay, even in the architecture also we explained the same point. Now, when you observe here, vCenter Server Appliance is ready. It's showing the please visit the following URL to configure the appliance. What is the option they are giving is we need to configure using HTTPS. It's showing the IP version 6 IP address, and port number is 5480. So either you can enter this IP address or you can directly type from the browser. So let me see, any screen is open. this all here. Okay. 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 So only our AD server, ESXi2 and VC. Okay. Now we can try to do the second step now. So in order to do the second step, they given step is 5480 port. So open the browser and type our ESX vCenter IP address. Our vCenter IP is HTTP 10.78 and they recommended to use the port number 5480. When I type 5480, press enter, it will redirect it to the vCenter server homepage. Sometimes we need to wait for a while because there is some background process still running. Its site is not reachable state. Okay, we'll wait for a while. It may take some time to load completely again. Okay, if you see the screen here, it says that please visit the following URL to configure the appliance. One option, again download bundle, one option, and finally they mention that root password is not set and failed to configure the network. So somehow it is failed to configure the network. So in order to do the customization, press F2 and customize. Okay, let me press F2, function 2. Seems some background process is still going on. We'll try to reboot once and try. Okay, right click the virtual machine. Don't do the power off always. It's like our laptop direct power button. Always recommendation is restart guest. See, it's a voice inside voice is photon voice. So for the same point we mentioned in the vCenter server architecture. Okay, so it's restarted. See, now it is showing the IP address is localhost colon 5480. Okay, we'll try this IP address. HTTP colon slash hash. Localhost means actual IP only. So localhost colon 5480. We'll type actual IP also. 192.168.10.78. Still, if it is failed to configure network, we'll try F12, F2. Okay, now it's asking for the password. So we'll set the password now. Okay, I set the password. And now if you see the right configure root password set. Now go to the configure management network and now just press enter and we'll see the management status, network status. So IP configuration, somehow IP is not set. It's unable to detect the IP. So the reason is, let me change the VM edit settings. go to the network. In our network, we recommend to choose the network is common network, VMnet 0. Click on OK. Okay, so now let me enter the IP address again. Okay, 192.168.10.78 and the subnet mask 255.255.255.0 and gateway. Okay, so gateway is 10.1. Now press enter. Okay, now in order to escape the information, just press escape, restart the management network, again escape. Okay, so please visit the following URL. Still the IP is not yet updated. Failed to configure the network. So let me restart one more time. If you want to restart F12 also we can press. Try F12 just in case if it is not taking the key, we'll try from here. Okay, somehow it is showing the failed to network, failed to configure the network. So that is the case. We'll try to deploy on a direct ESX host level. Somehow our network code is not detected. We map to VMNIC 0. Okay, we'll leave this setup here and we'll try from the graphical method, directly deploying on a ESX host. So select VCSA UI installer, click on installer, deploy vCenter server, click on next and accept the license agreement. And here we can enter our vCenter server details. But before install here, so what is the condition is we have to increase our ESXi host configuration. So current configuration is 4 GB, even another host also 4 GB. Okay, let me right click the ESX host and we can increase the memory. Let's say memory is 16 GB, we can increase. Okay, it's not allowing, maybe it's a workstation VM, so we can power off and increase. I'm just trying to power down this one, or else we'll double check one more time. Restart management network F11. Troubleshooting mode. Okay, I'm just enabling the shell. SSH also enable. Escape. Still failed to configure the network. We'll try one more reboot. If not working, we can try to deploy directly on the ESX box. In the meantime, we'll power off the ESX and we'll increase the configuration. Shut down guest. I'm just trying to remove this one, and we'll try one more time again. We'll try both ways. One is appliance OVF file deployment method. Another one we can deploy directly on ESX. Two methods we can try. Just right click and delete from disk. Okay. So now first I will increase the configuration for both ESX. ESX1, let's say increase to 8 CPU, and memory we can increase to 16 GB. 16 GB means what is the actual value? 16 into 1024, 16384. Yeah, it's correct. Okay. So click on OK. So 8 CPU, 16 GB memory. And same way, second host also. Click on edit settings, 8 CPU, and memory will increase to 16 GB. Okay, it's correct. So both are increased. Let's power on. Okay, before these two hosts boot up, we'll try the one more time. Again, home, open virtual machine, virtual appliance, accept, next. So vCenter name is VCSA, tiny, okay. And we'll give the IP address is IPv4, and the network mode is static, and we'll give the IP address 192.168.10.78, and the prefix will give 24 instead of slash. 192.168.10.1. Our gateway is one only, right? Yeah, gateway is correct one. And DNS server is our AD server. It's 70. And host identity. Fully qualified domain name. Okay. VCSA.demolab.com. Okay. So before import, we'll also create one active directory record. Okay. We'll create it later also. Click on import. Excuse me. Okay, network is booting. In the meantime, we'll just quickly change our network to custom. Click on OK. Okay, it's this time it's loading. It's taking a while. In the meantime, we can also start from this graphical method. So I'm just selecting any one of our ESXi host IP and enter the password and click on next. This is also another actual real-time method is this is the one. Okay. So VM name we can enter as VC02 for easy understanding. VC means vCenter and 02. Okay. And enter the password. Can now click next. So deployment, I'm choosing the tiny only. So click on next. So local data store, we have only 100 GB. Okay, we'll use this one, but we'll use a thin disk mode. Okay, so click on next. So here it is showing same like there, VM network. Okay, we'll choose the VM network first. IP version 4, static, FQDN is optional. Okay, we'll enter the IP address. Before enter the IP, let me ping 192.168.10.79. SIM 79 is also available IP. 192.168.10.79 and subnet mask. So either we can enter or prefix anything we can do. So let me enter the subnet mask 255.255.255.0 and default gateway 1. Okay, and DNS server 192.168.10.7170 and the default common ports HTTP 80, HTTPS Hypertext Transfer Protocol secure port number is 443. Now click on next. So this is a ready to complete stage 1 only. Okay, now click on finish. So stage 1 deployment is in progress. So that means this VM is going to create under 71 host. Currently 0%. It may take some time to finish. So deploying is 1%. It is also still loading. Some background is running. We'll wait for a while. And even this one also 3%. It may take some time. Okay. So our vCenter server ISO file size itself 9 GB. So it may take a while to finish the installation process. So that's it for today. Stage 2 we can discuss tomorrow. Once it is completed, I will leave it like this, and stage 2 we can configure tomorrow. Tomorrow stage 2 is nothing but our configuration part, configuring the vCenter server, NTP, SSH, and SSO, single sign-on. Okay, so that's it for today. Thanks for your time. If you have any questions, please let me know. If you have any questions on the deployment process, let me know. Okay. If no questions, thank you. Thanks for your time. Bye for now.